The great wickedness of man in Noah's day. This is something that has really been a passage, or the whole of Genesis has been quite interesting. And the more I reflect on it, I'm learning a lot more things. And I want to, and I've been really, the Lord has been speaking to me a lot about man and man's wickedness. And I'm talking specifically during the time of Noah. And the verse that I am picking for tonight is Genesis 6:5-8. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And I want to take out three verses or three sentences from this passage. The first one is, every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And so this means man, the human race, was only evil, and the thoughts were only evil. The second point is, and the Lord was sorry that he had made man, and he was grieved in his heart. And the third point was how God found grace in the eyes, how God found grace in the eye, how God found Noah to be a man that had grace. And so, as we look at these 3 points, the first one, every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And so here, if we look at the New Testament and in Matthew 24, here we see that Jesus said, as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So Jesus is reminding us that when he comes back, it will be like the days of Noah. Okay. And so the conditions of the world are clearly becoming just like the time before the flood. Of course, we have a promise that we will not have a flood again. And that was God's promise. Later, after the Noah story, we see that. But clearly, he says the end, or when he comes back, it will be like the days before Noah. And what were they? Exploding population, Genesis 6:1, sexual perversion, Genesis 6:2, demonic activity, constant evil in the heart of man, and widespread corruption and violence. And we are so familiar with this, right? The second point is the Lord was sorry, and he regretted having made man, and he grieved in his heart. And here God knew all along that this is how things would turn out. And God sees his plan for the ages unfold because it affects him. Obviously, God has made all of us in his image with so much of love, but he is affected. He is really going through a rough time for what man continually does. And my third point was how Noah found grace with the Lord. And this is very interesting because God commanded all the earth to be cleansed of the pollution. I mean, this is what he wanted. He wanted to clean it all up. And he said, I'm going to destroy everything that breathes. But he found one man with whom to begin again, and that was Noah. And amazingly, when you look at the lineage and when you look at how the reason for the corruption, everything, you can see how Noah comes into the picture. And he found this one man, Noah. And here, Noah found grace, which is favor, unmerited favor. Noah found favor with God. So he was the one man who found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah didn't earn grace, he found it. And, no one really earns grace, but we can all find grace. And again, Romans 5:20 says, it was true then, and it is true today. But where sin is abounded, grace abounded much more. So clearly, Noah found grace. Noah found favor with God. So my point to us tonight is, in the midst of all what Noah went through, and in the midst of what we are all going through, are we able to find grace? Because that's what the Lord really is looking for. I want to take us through the rest of the story just to give some thoughts and insights to what we are faced with in today's context, simply because of the way this pandemic is moving. And I'll run through just 2 slides to give a very brief summary of the accounts that happens after the beginning of this story of Noah. So as we see it, the corruption of the earth and the grace of God with where he found Noah. Then God tells Noah to build an ark. And, it's very interesting, as we look at this and study it a little more, and if you have, that's fantastic. But if you study this ark, it's amazing to understand this. The ark was as long as a 30-story building. And it's in the Bible. I'm not making the story up. If you read the details, it's a 30-story building. It's 450 feet long. I am on a building. I'm on the 37th story. And I know how hard it was during our fire drill to walk down the 37 stories because they don't allow you to use the elevator. And boy, that is some distance. So a 30-foot story building is pretty high. 450 feet is pretty long. So that's the length of the ark. 75 feet wide. We got to picture it. 45 feet tall. So 45 feet is pretty high. I mean, each floor generally is about 9-10 feet. So you can imagine that we are talking about almost a 5-story building here, right? And what is described is not really a boat. That's why they call it an ark. It's a well-ventilated barge. And, if we are close to the waters, we know what a barge is. It was meant to float. It was not made to sail. It was meant to float. And, as they call it, it's a chest, it's like a shoebox shape of a vessel. And those of you, I'm sure, are familiar with what I'm talking. It's very, very interesting what comes out of it. The ark was certainly big enough to do the job. And this is what God told Noah to do, how to make the ark. He gave the absolute measurements. Now, if the ark carried 2 of every family of the animals, there were around 700 pairs of animals. But if the ark carried 2 of every species of animals, there were 35,000 pairs of animals. So I'm just telling you how the Bible describes what was told to Noah. And if you look at the way the measurements are made, taking sheep as a simple example, the ark, half of the ark can carry 136,000 sheep, and the other half can easily keep space for food and people and all that. Now, why am I saying all this? The reason I'm saying all this is because God had a plan. And I want to be a little specific on this plan. So, as we continue, God invites Noah into the ark. And please read it. It's in chapter 7, verse 1. God invites Noah. God doesn't tell Noah, go into the ark. He's inviting Noah, which means God is inside the ark and he invites Noah. And Noah gathers all the animals and his family. And interestingly, if you read it, you'll see where God tells Noah the animals will come to him. He didn't have to go and find them, they came to him. God brings the waters up upon the earth as it goes on. And as Noah and the animals enter into the ark, God shuts the door. And again, please read verse 13 to 16. It talks about how God shut the door of the ark. So, my point is, when Noah got into the ark, the Lord invited him into the ark. He's inside. The Lord shuts the door of the ark. And God is very much there because he has a big plan. Now, what's most interesting is in that flood or during that flood, what was really going on. And you might not know this, but I'm sure you know it. I still want to share this information because I am comparing all this to what we go through in today's context. Noah was in the ark for a year, one whole year. I don't know whether you know this, but Noah was inside the ark for exactly a year and 10 days. And please read the details. It's there. It's not something I'm fabricating. It's all mentioned in the dates. One whole year he was inside. And that's why God told him, make sure you take sufficient food. And if you look at the size of the ark, you'll know why. Because he had to take so many animals inside and he had to take sufficient food for an entire year into the ark. He never complained. He just remained obedient. Safe in the ark, God sustained Noah and his family through this time of catastrophe and through this time of judgment. Shut in and sheltered from the storm and floods, they were safe. So, I mean, he was shut in. He could not see much outside. And we are all in a similar situation. If you take our family, since March 15th, we have been in a lockdown. We still are in a lockdown. I have been fortunate as in work, since May. Since May, towards the end of May, I began to go to work. But if I take our family, I think the Merlin, for example, our domestic help, she and the daughter have never left the house since March 15th until today. Ernie, he goes probably once a week since about June. Our small fellow, Malli, has begun going probably once in 2 weeks. Once in 2 to 3 weeks, he'll go since June. Cindy and I go shopping once a week. So it's been amazing how we have been in a similar situation, but only from May or since March. But Noah was there for an entire year and he could not even get out. He was locked inside. Noah underwent burial of all the old things that he might come out into a new world. And even so, we die in Christ that we may live with him. So Noah goes through a transformation time. He realized and he saw what God was showing him because God was so upset. And it was a long time. It was not something that happened in a few minutes. Now, of course, again, you know this, the fish did not die in the flood. Only animals with the breath of life in them died. The animals on dry land, animals and men. So this is what, again, the Bible says. So God did not touch the life in the sea, but it was all in the dry land. So as we look at what we go through today in this pandemic, I want us to be reminded of what Noah went, because even yesterday when we were sharing with one another, there is frustration. How long is this going to go on? How long can we go on? But are we listening to the Lord? Are we able to understand what is He telling us? Is He happy with us? Or have we continuously hurt Him? And so my prayer is that we will understand what's going on and we will be obedient to Him, because Noah did not complain. He just obeyed what the Lord told him. And he found favor with God. He found favor. And in this pandemic, do you think that the Lord finds favor? Do we find that in Him? Do we have that grace? Are we able to find favor with God in this time? And all I pray is that we will, we should, we must, because it is something that He's telling us that we need to be listening, especially it's a little too much. It's going on since March. A second wave is happening. There is a message. We really need to know what it is and what we are going through. Okay, so with that, I pray that the Lord will speak to us through Genesis 6 and 7 and help us to really understand what is our role in all this and can we find grace in this time.